never thought I'd become the kind of man who tiptoed through hotel hallways like a thief, clutching a camera recorder in my sweaty hands, heart pounding so loudly I was afraid the walls themselves would give me away. Yet that's exactly where I ended up one night, sneaking into a hotel room that wasn't mine, all because of a single receipt that had changed everything I thought I knew about my marriage. My wife, Mira, and I had been together for 12 years. We had 2 kids, a modest but comfortable home, and what I believed was a stable life. Our marriage wasn't flashy, but I thought it was steady. She had always been the planner, the caretaker, the one who made birthdays special and kept the kids' schedules organized. I was the worker, the provider, up early, late home, trying to make sure the bills were paid and that our family had the kind of security my own childhood never had. Looking back, maybe that's where the cracks began. I was so focused on building a foundation that I didn't always notice the little details, the perfume that didn't match hers, the way she sometimes pulled her phone away when I walked into the room, the new work events that seemed to multiply without warning. At the time, I told myself it was nothing. I didn't want to be paranoid. I didn't want to accuse the woman I loved of being unfaithful just because my gut whispered something I couldn't prove. Then one night, as I was sorting the laundry, I found it, a folded receipt from a hotel bar tucked in her jeans pocket. The date was from a Tuesday when she had claimed to be working late. The amount was high enough to suggest more than one drink, and the hotel was on the other side of town, nowhere near her office. My stomach sank like a stone dropped into deep water. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I kept the receipt, staring at it whenever I had a quiet moment. I imagined a dozen innocent explanations, but none of them held. Eventually, my need for the truth outweighed my fear of it. I called a private investigator, a friend of a friend who didn't ask many questions. Within a week, I had what I dreaded most, confirmation. She wasn't working late. She was meeting someone. A man. The PI gave me the name of the hotel, the times, even the room number. It was clinical, factual, without emotion. But for me, every detail was like a knife. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to scream or beg. I wasn't going to wait for her to hand me half-truths. I wanted proof. Hard, undeniable proof. And then, when the moment came, I was going to end it on my terms. I booked a room at the same hotel on the night the PI said she'd be meeting him again. I checked in under a different name, my pulse racing as though I were the one committing a crime. The plan was simple. Wait until she and her lover entered the room, slip in quietly, and capture everything on camera. I knew it was risky, but my anger had made me fearless. That night, I dressed in dark clothes and pulled a cap low over my face. I carried a small recorder in my pocket and a folder of divorce papers I had already had drawn up by a lawyer. I wanted to be ready for the confrontation. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just suspicious. I was finished. I watched from a distance as she walked into the hotel lobby. She looked radiant in a dress I had bought her years ago for our anniversary. The irony burned in my chest. Her lover was already waiting for her. A tall man in an expensive suit, someone who carried himself with the arrogance of money and easy charm. I followed them at a safe distance, heart hammering, until they disappeared into the elevator. Minutes later, I slipped into the hallway near their room. I waited until I heard the door close and the muffled sounds of laughter inside. Then, using the copy of the key card the PI had managed to get me, I slipped the lock and entered. The scene that greeted me was like something out of a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Mira was in his arms, kissing him like a woman in love, her laugh light and free in a way I hadn't heard in years. The room smelled of perfume and alcohol, and the sight of the two of them together sent a wave of nausea crashing over me. But I didn't make a sound. I didn't rush forward. I simply raised the recorder and began to film. For nearly an hour, I recorded everything. Their conversations, their embraces, the intimate betrayal that tore through every memory we had built together. Every second was torture, but it also gave me strength. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This was fact. This was evidence. When I finally slipped out of the room and returned to my own, I sat in the dark replaying the footage. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt a cold, focused clarity settle over me. Tomorrow it would end. The next evening at home, Mira acted like nothing was wrong. She kissed me lightly, asked about dinner, scrolled through her phone as if the previous night hadn't happened. Our kids were upstairs and I waited until they were asleep. Then I called her into the kitchen. She sat down, puzzled, as I placed the recorder on the table and slid the folder of divorce papers toward her. "What's this?" she asked, frowning. "Press play," I said. Her expression shifted from confusion to horror as her own voice filled the room. The sound of her laughter, the man's voice calling her by name, her answering him with affection. She slammed the stop button and stared at me wide-eyed. "Arjun, I can explain—" "No!" I cut her off, my voice calm but firm. "You can't explain this. You lied, you betrayed me, and now it's over." Tears welled in her eyes. "It didn't mean anything. I was lonely, I snapped, my control finally slipping. "So you chose to destroy our family? You chose to crawl into another man's bed instead of talking to me? Don't insult me with excuses. Sign the papers." Her hands shook as she flipped through the documents. She tried again, begging, pleading, promising it would never happen again. But I had already made my choice. For 12 years I had given her loyalty, love, and trust. She had thrown it away. Eventually, sobbing, she signed. I gathered the papers, slid them back into the folder, and stood. "We'll figure out custody. The kids will always come first. But you and I? We're finished." The look on her face was one I'll never forget, a mix of regret, shock, and the dawning realization that she had lost everything. In the weeks that followed, the consequences hit her hard. Her lover, the man she had risked it all for, dropped her the moment things became complicated. Word of the affair spread through her workplace, tarnishing her reputation. She moved into a small apartment while I kept the house and the kids. The children were confused and hurt, of course, but I made sure their lives stayed as stable as possible. I became both mother and father when I had them, pouring my energy into their happiness instead of my bitterness. As for Mira, karma did what I could never have done. She ended up alone, her so-called lover gone, her career damaged, her family broken. She had chosen her path, and she had to live with it. My revenge wasn't screaming or public humiliation. It was quiet, devastating finality. I had caught her red-handed, confronted her with undeniable proof, and ended it without a second chance. I walked away with my dignity, my children, and my peace, and she was left with nothing but the wreckage of her own choices. I never wanted to be the man sneaking into hotel rooms with a camera, but I'm glad I was, because that night gave me the truth I needed, and the strength to end a marriage built on lies.